TrinityStrong Kingdom broadcast. Welcome to another segment of Peaches and the Pastor. We are on a special assignment. We're in Daytona Beach. We're beach bumming today outside. I hope you can see the beautiful water and hear the crashing waves. How blessed we are to have been able to take all this in the month of January. It's about 66 degrees outside today, and we are just enjoying that. Well, hey, listen, stay tuned because we're going to be talking a lot of good stuff on Peaches and the Pastor. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Well, again, greetings, TrinityStrong Kingdom broadcast, and I hope you all enjoyed the special intro from Peaches. I hope you loved it. I loved it. She looked really cool. We're out here in Daytona Beach, kicking it on the beach and having a great time.
Kicking it.
Right. And this is not we're not changing the title of our show, Kicking It with Peaches and the Pastor. Just
no.
Oh, maybe not. That sounds like a pretty cool name, Kicking It with Peaches and the Pastor. No? All right, we'll keep it the same. All right, but how you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm fine. As long as I'm with you, baby, I'm okay, baby. Got you. That's what I need, right? Okay. We'll get back to that a little bit later. Okay. I want you to know exactly what you mean to me.
What?
Yeah, baby.
What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what do we talk about on Peaches and the Pastor? Things that are relevant to strengthening your marriage. And sex. We can't talk enough about sex. Can I get a But so let's deal with a topic that we all deal with, and in terms of sex, and that's sex frustration. Sex frustration, and why that is an important issue. So I want to just kind of address it from the question: do you think that when you're single, the issue of sex is more discussed, or the topic of sex is more discussed when you're single than when you become married? What do you think?
More discussed?
More discussed, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably when you're single. When you're single, that kind of stuff is in the forefront. When you're married, you got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Mm-hmm. Responsibilities, children, house, bills, blah blah blah. So I think more discussed when you're single.
Yeah, and I really agree with that. Looks like when you're single, you spend a great deal of time talking about it and other things. Okay, and that's a really good point. When you get married, you have other things that you're now addressing, and sometimes the discussion of sex gets pushed back, even to the degree that when you're frustrated with sex, that gets pushed back too, but for other reasons. There are some things that get pushed back in marriage, and it's not it's just not that critical, I think. But when it comes to not addressing sexual things, that thing becomes very critical, and because it's an important component in your relationship. So we all are going to experience some form of sex frustration, and so we want to use this segment to kind of address some of the ways in which we can attack those sex frustrations and making sure that it doesn't become a detriment to your marriage.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of folks. So, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with just the discussion itself. Why is it difficult to discuss sexual frustrations or sex frustration? I'll put it anywhere you want to put it. Why is that so difficult to discuss it when you're married? And what do you think?
Well, I don't know if sex.
Now the sex frustration.
Sex frustration
Okay.
becomes a priority when you're married. Not that the frustration is not there. The discussion of sexual frustration, I don't think is in your top 5 priority.
Well, I think it's a priority I think it's a number 1 priority. Why it's not being discussed, that's another issue.
I'm talking about the discussion of sexual frustration.
Yeah, so I will put that on a whole different category of discussion, and maybe not group that with discussing why you don't cook my chicken well, or you wearing something I don't want you to wear. But I believe it ought to be on a separate page altogether, because it has a direct impact. It is a direct impact on your relationship. So I believe that it becomes the sex frustration is developed through the lack of communicating your frustration to your spouse. That's where the frustration is. That is the inability to communicate it to your spouse properly. Okay. Yeah. I think that's where the heat of that piece comes there, and that you haven't found the right way to discuss your sex frustration. Now, this is not necessarily the lack of sex, okay, because many of you can be having a lot of it, I guess, or lack of it, I don't know. But it has nothing to do with the volume, but it may have something to do with what you might consider, quality, or what's pleasurable, or simply what gets you off.
Wow.
I said it.
He just said that. But I mean, this is good. I mean, you're just saying, talking about sex. Sex is a very, taboo subject. And so I think it is a frustrating topic to bring up, because you just don't, the lack of knowing how, or how to phrase it. How will you take it? How will I be looked at if I brought up something like that? So I think you just have to do it. One thing I always like to say is, when you're trying to deliver something of importance, you want to make sure that that it comes across in love, and that the tone is proper, and that you start with something good and you get to the meat, and then you follow it up with something good, or a compliment, or something that's positive, because ultimately you want it to be received. And so then the putting it together, I guess, is going to take some thought,
right,
on how to communicate it properly.
Right, and so when you're discussing sexual frustration or sex frustration, let's not make it an indictment against your marriage. Okay, so let's put that out front, because on your point, when you're discussing these things, you want to discuss things in a nice, cool, and loving manner. I love you, baby. You're my queen, or you're my king, and you begin with those kinds of affirmations, right? To let your spouse know that we're not talking about something that will break us apart, but we're talking about something that will bring us closer together. So, and you have to lay that out and take your time building the affirmations up before you start to talk about the frustrations that you may have in your sexual relationship with your spouse. So those are very, very important. So when you begin to communicate those things, you have to be open and transparent. Once you move from the affirmations, move to transparency, and just being honest. All right, just be honest. But you can't just dive in with transparency and all that honesty without diving into affirming the marriage as a solid relationship. You have to do that first.
Because the one thing you don't want is your spouse to jump on the defense before you even get your point out. If you come up and just start rattling off things that you think I should do better or I don't do or whatever the problem is, the first thing I'm going to do is get on the defense. So you want to talk about, all what Pastor just said, putting all those affirmations out, making sure that you set the tone for the conversation, making sure that you know and you have communicate to your spouse that our relationship is solid, that we are moving forward, but we do need to address these few things.
And that's right. That is so right. And when you discuss those things and address it, and you've come to a decision, and you're feeling good about it, then you have to build from that. You can't make a decision about a sexual frustration and just leave it there. And that's the trick of the enemy, to have you think that, well, you overcame that one piece, so you don't need to worry about that any longer. It's never going to happen again. You all won there. You don't have to deal with that any longer, but that's a lie. Those things that you have overcome, right? Or the thing that you overcame will at some point come back up, and you want to be prepared. So always find space to address those sexual issues that you're having, because everybody deal with them. Everyone have it. Everyone at some point in your marriage is going to have some sexual frustration. Again, guys, I don't care how saved you are, sanctified you are. Some of you are some of the most frustrated sexually people. Okay, and so don't put this in the context of God is able, to do this. God is able. No. It's a choice. You have a choice to make things right. You have a choice to make things right, but there's a proper way of doing it. So make sure that when you overcome something, make sure you don't stop there, that you keep winning. You keep winning.
Yeah, build on it.
Yeah.
And that's going to take maturity, because I have to be mature enough to receive what you're saying and then want to do. And ultimately, if you're listening to Peaches and the Pastor, we know you want to do better. You want to do your very best. So for one, you want this communicated. You build off of that, take that, and try to do your very, very best with that. And then you move on, right?
Right, you move on and continue to build, and continue to open those lines of discussion, because there's I guess when you're single, then you're married, there's a hyphen, level of responsibility all the way around. You have added things that comes with marriage. And but we need the sexual relationship to be strong in that marriage. You do, and so if you don't pay attention to it, you're going to be frustrated. And if you are afraid to discuss your sexual frustrations with your spouse, you need some help.
Yeah, but the one thing I say is, if you're frustrated about something, then you be the initiator. You take that thing and take control of it, and you be the initiator. Your partner, your spouse cannot read your mind. They want to do their very best, but sometimes they might not even know that you're having these thoughts or these frustrations. So you initiate if you want more or you a certain way, whatever it is, then you initiate that, and your spouse will appreciate that, especially if you're able to discuss it and discuss your thoughts. Your spouse can appreciate that, and that's being mature, not just come and lead in with negative things. You don't do this, you don't do that, but coming with being the mature person and letting your spouse know your expectations in love, and being the initiator of it.
Yeah, right. And initiating the discussions and the actions are all very, very, very important. if you are, and I know, I get it, and you don't want to talk about these kinds of things because it's so sensitive. You don't want to get your spouse upset and make them, start thinking that, I'm not good enough for you. And if you're not saved, let me tell you guys, if you're not a Christian in this, y'all bets are off. And in fact, I don't know how you handle your sexual relationship and it being strong and being vibrant without Christ in your life. Because I'm going to tell you guys, without that, you're going to have a hard time talking about sexual frustration with your spouse every given time. Because you're going to have fire blowing, people shooting off their mouths, talking about if you can't get it here, what do you mean? You're going to get it somewhere else, or I need to do this, or you need to do that. And
let
just
me
start talking.
When you come with that, it's a complete shutdown. Don't ever leave with what you gonna do, because I know for most people, what you gonna do will definitely put you right there and doing it, because that's gonna shut the other spouse completely down. And I love what you said about the foundation. Without Christ, there is no conversation.
It's just not gonna happen, because any type of frustration, be it sexual frustration, economic frustration, all kinds of frustrations we have, family frustration, son frustration, daughter frustration. Let me, guys, all of those things are just powder kegs just waiting to explode at any given time. And if you don't have the right substance to deal with, and the substance of Christian principles and biblical principles, if you don't have those as the running blood through the vein of your marriage, you're going to have issues, period. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, period. No doubt.
What.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
that's number one.
That's number one.
Right there.
But we can't assume that everyone is on the same level, because and you and I are, and we're no different than all of you. We all experience issues and problems and challenges and frustration. I usually don't like using the word problems, because my wife and I, we don't have problems. We may have some challenges, but we don't have no problems. Let me tell you, challenges, we have some things, but even our challenges is fun. I told my wife when I married her, I said, I'm gonna look forward to our ups and our downs, because I told her that I'm looking forward to our challenges, because through our challenges, I'm looking forward for God to take us through and make us strong. Remember me telling you that?
Yes, I do. And
she didn't understand that, really.
I'm not looking for no challenges, no problems, none of that. Okay, but I do understand, and that does help us grow. And so even with this topic, it's a challenge. If it's a challenge in your marriage, sexual frustration, communicating that to your spouse, then let's start today with fixing that by initiating the things you want to see change, bringing it up in a conversation, being mature enough to lead with positive things, and then talk about it, then end with positive things, doing it in love, in the right tone.
That's right.
Using Christ as your foundation. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, don't be scared. Talk about that thing, okay? And guys, I want to thank you all for joining us on another segment of
Peaches
and the Pastor. And we hope that this segment has been helpful for you. Let us know. Shout back out to us and let us know how it benefited you. And it certainly encourages us to continue with these types of topics. Okay?
Yeah, we need your feedback.
So with that being said, God bless, and we'll catch up with you guys next week. Peace.